It looks like Star Trek Strange New Worlds casting makes up for a rude thing Captain Pike said in the first Star Trek pilot. This is great, since the franchise hasn't always done a good job of treating men and women equally. On that note, let's look at how Strange New Worlds fixed Captain Pike's awful Star Trek insult. We'll also look at how Strange New Worlds has a secret Kirk and Nurse Chapel connection. To start with, Strange New Worlds has a great chance of keeping up with the times. Strange New Worlds follows the adventures of the Enterprise crew, who first showed up in the unaired pilot, The Cage. It's both a prequel to Star Trek, the original series, and a modern Trek show with modern issues. And safe to say that this show finally provides some modern solutions that we've been dying to see in the previous Star Trek content. It does a great job of fixing some of the problems with the 1960s Star Trek. Gene Roddenberry's Star Trek was very forward-thinking and progressive in its peaceful anti-war stance and commitment to racial representation, but it really missed the mark when it came to gender equality. For example, the last episode of the show, Turnabout Intruder, was about an old flame of Captain Kirk's, Dr. Janice Lester, who went to great lengths to become one of Star Trek's female captains by swapping bodies with Kirk. This strange attitude toward women in senior Starfleet positions was also shown in Star Trek's unaired pilot, when Christopher Pike said he couldn't get used to seeing women on the bridge, but he made an exception for number one. Strange New Worlds can finally fix the biggest problem with the original Star Trek series by bringing back Pike and number one. Coming up, Strange New Worlds diversity fixes Pike's insult in The Cage. Since the episode was never shown in its entirety and the footage was instead used in The Menagerie, Strange New Worlds can easily avoid the in the original Pike. Instead, the casting is done in a variety of ways that show the Anson Mount Pike in a much better light. There are a lot more women in key positions on Starfleet than there were on Captain Kirk's Enterprise or on Pike's during The Cage. Aside from characters like Number One, Uhura, and Chapel, there are also new characters like Security Officer Lon Noonien Singh and Helmsman Erica Ortegas. On top of this, in Strange New Worlds, all of these characters get as much or more screen time as many of the male crew members. In SNW Season 1, two of the main character arcs are Lon's bad experience with the Gorn and Uhura's doubts about a career in Starfleet. It's a subtle change that gets around the strange way the original Pike didn't want women on the bridge of a starship and puts the female officers at the center of the story. Number One's bigger role in Season 2 of SNW should also help fix Pike's rude comment and the insulting thing he said. What's more, how Strange New Worlds Season 2 can address The Cage insult directly. Strange New Worlds Season 1 ended on a cliffhanger, which is the perfect way for the show to directly respond to The Cage's insults. Since Anson Mount's Captain Pike is so likable, it would be a mistake to turn him into a repentant all of a sudden. But when Una is arrested because of her Illyrian roots, Pike and the rest of the Enterprise crew will be able to fight to keep Number One's job on the Enterprise. Pike and Captain Batel may have trouble getting along because of Una's arrest. Captain Batel is a woman who may become Pike's enemy in Season 2 instead of his lover. This is another smart move by Star Trek Strange New Worlds. The conflict between Batel and Pike will not be based on sexual inequality like the one between Kirk and Lester. Instead, it will be based on a moral disagreement about the rights of genetically enhanced people. Star Trek hasn't always done a great job of telling stories that are truly diverse and fair, but the future looks very bright. Moving on to the diverse cast gets more screen time to develop. Star Trek Strange New Worlds has made a show that combines the classic style of Star Trek, the original series, with the bigger stories and modern sensibilities of the newer shows. The show gives its diverse cast, not just the 3 white leads, a lot of room to grow, and it has a hopeful tone that has been missing from the world and the franchise lately. Star Trek Strange New Worlds has the feel of old Trek, but it was made during the new Trek era. This makes it a unique and important addition to the franchise. It looks like the diverse cast will also get a chance to develop their characters, and it'll definitely be interesting for us to see how they grow. This is a welcome change for a franchise that has always tried to be ahead of the curve when it comes to representation. The 2022 show will be the first time this will happen. Lastly, the show also changes a few things up in other aspects. It seems like Star Trek Strange New Worlds is also able to blend the styles and moods of the 2 time periods. The production design and the way the characters interact show that the original had a sense of optimism and kindness. Even though a lot of the character arcs are pretty dark, the show doesn't wallow in it. Also, Pike doesn't keep the terrible news about his future to himself. He tells his friends about it. When Uhura tells the senior staff about how her family died, she is understood and told to make the best decisions for herself. The crew of this Enterprise is much safer than those on Discovery or La Sirena, but they also live during the Federation's most powerful time. The only bad thing about this positivity is that there is a gap between what people do and how they react, which was one of the problems with the original series. People don't usually bounce back after seeing death or the terrible things that happen in space, but they do in Star Trek Strange New Worlds. This may change the characters in the long run. Now, let's look at how Strange New Worlds has a secret Kirk and Nurse Chapel connection. First up, Kirk and Nurse Chapel could potentially have something in common. In Star Trek Strange New Worlds Season 2, James T. Kirk and Nurse Christine Chapel knew each other before they worked together on the Enterprise. Kirk was first seen in Equality of Mercy, the Season 1 finale, when he was in charge of the USS Farragut instead of the Enterprise. This was because Captain Pike had changed the past. In the first episode of SNW's first season, Memento Mori, it was shown that Nurse Chapel had also worked on the Farragut before. She wore the ship's emblem on her uniform on Starfleet Remembrance Day. So, keeping this in mind, it's very likely that they already knew each other before Kirk joined the Enterprise. It's not clear if the crew members Chapel remembers are the ones who died in Kirk's USS Farragut disaster. But if they are, this would give Kirk and Chapel something in common during Season 2 of SNW. With Kirk's arrival, Strange New Worlds moves closer to the timeline of Star Trek, the original series, where Kirk often found Chapel's love for Spock funny. It's possible that the future captain of the Enterprise first heard about Chapel's feelings for the Vulcan when he was working for Captain Pike. Up next, Kirk and Chapel's history on the USS Farragut. The original series, Season 2, Episode 13, Obsession, is about Kirk's time on the Farragut, and in that episode, he put the lives of the Enterprise crew in danger to stop a vampire-like creature that killed 200 officers, or half of the Farragut crew. This happened in 2257, 2 years before the end of Season 1 of Strange New Worlds, where we saw that Kirk is still serving on the Farragut. Earlier in the episode, Pike's changes to the TOS timeline led to Kirk becoming captain of the ship, which is likely how he worked through his guilt and trauma from being a survivor. Less is known about Nurse Chapel's time on the Farragut, since it was only mentioned in SNW Season 1, Episode 4, Memento Mori. Since she wears the Farragut symbol on her uniform to remember remember the people she's lost, it's likely that she was on the ship when it ran into the deadly entity. Chapel, played by Majel Barrett, shows up briefly in Obsession, where she helps the latest victims of the entity without saying much about what happened in 2257. This is definitely a bit nerve-wracking, but Strange New Worlds could easily deal with it in its second season. Finally, Strange New Worlds Season 2 can set up Chapel and Kirk's friendship. In Obsession, Spock tells Dr. McCoy about the Farragut disaster when they start to worry about Kirk's mental state. Kirk and Spock haven't met yet in SNW, so you never know. Nurse Chapel might be able to bring them together. Captain Pike wants Kirk on the Enterprise because he has seen that the universe is a darker place without the bond between Kirk and Spock on the Federation flagship. But if Chapel knows Kirk and knows about his sad past, she might change Spock's opinion of the cocky young officer. In A Quality of Mercy, Kirk's brother Sam says some things about him that aren't really nice. He calls him a pain in the ass, who also doesn't like to lose. Given what Kirk went through on the Farragut, it's easy to see why he won't accept a no-win situation. This is shown by the fact that he cheated on the Kobayashi Maru. In Season 2 of Star Trek Strange New Worlds, young Kirk will need someone like Nurse Chapel, who knows what he went through on the Farragut, to help him find his way on the Enterprise. So the friendship between these two characters can definitely help explain why Kirk and Spock's friendship is so important. That's a wrap for this video. What are your thoughts on Strange New Worlds fixing Captain Pike's Star Trek insult by using a diverse cast? And what do you think about the secret Kirk and Nurse Chapel connection? Let us know in the comments below. Also, be sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like these. See you in the next one.